There was something really quite funny about busting open a PS4 copy of FF7R and catching it having more than one disc. A install disc and a game disc, obviously, but it still reminded me of a time where bigger games coming on multiple CDs was more or less the expected norm. It started with floppies, I believe. Can't say I know much about them, but that's what I feel like I should say as to sound as if I do. And of course, we got like, 360 game MGS4, Though really, Lost Odyssey having 4 discs is as fitting as its grey menus were. You see, most folks, I think, will think of PS1 games when it comes to multi-disc releases. The first one being D from 1995, having 3 discs, and quite the unusual case overall, being that it lacks the usual PS1 banner shit, looking more like a Japanese release. Don't worry though, this copy's German. Galarian's also got an incredible multi-disc box with Xion taking a and that concludes all of the PS1 games I own physically. Tokimeki Memorial 2 though and Riven came on goddamn 5 CDs, which is noteworthy, and I also love how the Resident Evils got freaky with it, hosting different character playthroughs on either discs rather than just spreading out the linear game. Which is what, to a legendary degree, most JRPGs did. Big-ass titles with tons of areas, characters, music, and FMVs that had their sense of bigness embiggened due to their big beefy cases, boasting bulky stacks of CDs. The Legend of Dragoon, Koudelka, Final Fantasy VIII and IX all came on 4 discs, and the, in my opinion, much tighter pace than any of those, Final Fantasy VII came on 3. However, what if I told you that 7 had a secret 4th disc? Yeah, I didn't know about this either until just about a month ago, but 7's international version, which is exclusive to Japan, it makes sense, shut up, has a 4th bonus disc holding many coveted secrets. Like, is that like some type of Chocobo butt plug? I see. But also turning the whole world into a type of point-and-click adventure with an adorable pixel art world map and really crispy renders of the backgrounds. Zoomed out further than they would have been in-game, letting one appreciate them more. I don't know if these are the same files or not. Compression differences make me think that maybe some of these are rendered specifically for this, given that they still would have had those assets back then, I imagine. But either way, it's basically just a tourist mode Final Fantasy VII sort of thing, simply letting the player peruse about to find things. Extra bits of info is akin to the renders on various items and locales in the game, which is really cute. FMVs that relate to these places, and a freakishly high-res for PS1 standards 3D model viewer of shit you barely even saw at all in-game. Midgals? Also, very excellently, after Hardy Daytona and Hardy Daytona, we now have Hardy Daytona! Fuck yes. Fucking model viewer, baby! I like the helicopter has this metallic shading on it on PS1. I didn't know that shit would even be possible. It's fucking nuts. And I've mentioned Johnny's cool jacket in, I think, 2 vids prior before, and look, I got a fully detailed, isolated view of it now. You get to see shit like the little cat drawing on Barrett's boxing ball. You get to see all of Dio's dumb trinkets like the diving suit and this friend, as well as a painting of Dio himself, and look at it! And a super nice peek at the snowboard too, it's cool. Then there's Data File, which houses all the raw data of literally fucking everything. At first I figured that you'd have to find shit in world first to unlock it here, but no, it's just a full ass database. All the items illustrated and described in detail, dope menus with Crust Vincent, and equally compressed renders of the whole cast with little bios and blurry FMVs of their special moves. First I wondered why they didn't include the model viewer here, until I realized that this also contains all of the enemies. There's also a render viewer for the disc swap screens, which has the mostest zoom sound effect ever. Almost Erguys-esque. And finally, it also has making. What's making? Well, this incredible house music for a start, but also got what it takes to be square. So fucking production documents and shit. Like concept art and renders from its Nintendo early beta days, looking a whole lot more Final Fantasy IXe than 7e, showing the game slowly taking shape as the concept art becomes more and more mechanical, and suddenly the art turns to renders, and the renders start having little skunk dudes in them. There's also all the discarded logo ideas, the models slowly becoming what they would be, and this dope little FMV with early cuts of the intro, different angles on the station, dumpy towns that have yet to have any shading, a whole different look to the battle system, pixel art in the menus, and Chocobo vision. I had seen this before on YouTube, but it's still really neat to see it here, and I'm sure it would have been dope as heck to have back in the day. Sure, yes, it is ostensibly just a DVD bonus menu, but because it's Final Fantasy VII, that automatically makes it some of the coolest fucking shit. If you're a big fan, I'd highly recommend checking this out, regardless of if you can read Japanese or not. There's illustrations and renders for just about every item in the game, for instance. Things you'd never thunk would have had any type of real visual representation are here straight from the concept arts. Let me put it this way. If you ever wanted to get a good look at the pillow from the dude who's watching Sin TV's house or Bubby's thong, then this is the disc for you. Anyway, intro. That's right, motherfuckers. Welcome to So I've Been Playing, the show where I talk about games and experiences I have experienced that I wasn't able to make fully fledged videos out of, or repurpose otherwise. Cause, there's only so much one can say about a bonus disc really, and I'm not exactly able to squeeze a 30-minute video out of the intermission either, which I played back in August of last year. Yuffie time! Fun, but hard to trust in FF7, adorable in Crisis Core, and possibly a little annoying in Dirge, and now seemingly the perfect fusion of all of those past portrayals here in 7R so far. AKA Final Fantasy VII again, i.e. just more Final Fantasy VII, so fine by me. Has hella hang attitude, seeing characters on their off time or the main gang, post Cloud took a tumble discussing what do, as well as more deets about how the rest of Avalanche works and how they view said gang, which is stuff before Crisis dealt with a little bit but not a lot and kinda awkwardly, which ain't the case now. Tis more integrated and personally charged, mainly through giving these Avalanchers a face that does more than laughing maniacally. There's also incredible cats, some really neat new areas that show more of Midgar, which is never a bad thing far as I'm concerned, and all of my best friends from Dirge return too. I've said loads and will blow more about Dirge and its vibes in past, present, and future aplenty, but here I'll just say that while Nero and Vice is introduced a tad suddenly with maybe not enough build-up, they're still used super effectively in look and sound and act with as much 2000 edge as ever. I mean, look at this pointy bitch. Fucking adorable. And I'm also very happy that the puking arc continues. Puking on the high wind, puking on the other high wind, puking on the heli and CC, and now puking on the train. Through 3D sickness, we bond. In general, though, I'm just very happy that Final Fantasy VII became so relevant again, as it birthed a lot of cool things. For example, not only did its raging success lead Square to do hella cool stuff and experiment with less budgetal worries, it also directly make for some of those games, as its development showed earlier, it went to quite a fair few phases, and one of those would become Parasite Steve. Tobal also came with its demo disc, and Guys would have 7's characters in it. Its FMVs too, and the general darker, edgier vibes would lead to many cool fonted big city games across the board. Anything from Overblood 2 to Galarians and Trag, and of course its own little Chocobo racing minigame spun off into its own whole game. So with 7R, I hope that we'd see something similar in current day, and Stranger in Paradise uses 7R's menu, stylings, and many of its assets, thus tying into it visibly, just as titles like Tobal was way back when too. Chocobo Racing returning by way of Chocobo GP also certainly seems mighty fitting as well, just as they're about to drop another FMV game, with the last one being Another Mind on PS1. And, well, that's it really so far. But I mean, who knows how new Valkyrie profile or 16 with its similar seeming combat might tie into something or other. And I mean, Square Enix's current CEO is basically President Shinra, but without the oil baron swag. So yeah, just kind of a piece of shit. so happy when they announced this. Just the sheer possibility that they was gonna bring him back. And they did. I love the OG Chocobo racing. It has cute of the soul. Picture book story mode, horny Moogle, tons of little buddies, fun skirting and drifting heavy gameplay, and energy similar to this cool UI element from FF7's Chocobo racing segment. And while I wasn't expecting GP to be a super direct sequel in regards to style and playstyle, I did really want that story mode, and luckily Square supplied. Or rather, Arika did, as they made it. You wouldn't know from the splash screens, but the title screen certainly gives it away as it boots up with possibly the funniest visuals X-music juxtaposition has seen in a hot fucking minute. This is full-on late 80s cock rock with cute bird and friends. It's great. And then, of course, it hits you with the 800 free mithril. A bad omen? Perhaps. Either way, Arika specializes in arcade games, and as such, Chocobo GP is a super simple kart racer. It has a core drifting mechanic whereby holding down a drift long enough it turns into a speed boost upon purple, and that's basically all it has. It's not exactly very fast either. Speed lines blurring around the corners of the camera, FOV shifting, actually going fast, or texture work that helps emphasize roads whizzing by is all tricks that game can use to make fast feel fast, and it does do at least two of those. With the drift boosts as your character will speed ahead of the camera for a bit with little flurries of white lines springing forth, but it's very shortly lived. Shift shits back to the static feel it has by default, and then it's like, oh, okay. I guess I went a little bit quicker there for a couple of seconds. Thing is, too, is that there's no escalation of speeds. You're not building up boosts going faster and faster. There's a very clear speed cap, a baseline level quickness that you hit pretty much right away and stick with for the most part outside of the little mini boosts. Even tracks littered with pads and collectibles that add speed and items that have boosting properties too, it still feels as if it has like two modes essentially, boosted and unboosted. I called it static just a second ago, and that's really the best way I can put it, I think. There's two hard binaries of speed with no real sense of gaining or losing in between. It's a very rigid experience, which I find a little disappointing as its predecessor had some really grindy, almost rally-like gravelly swerve going on. The turning and drifting in that felt very visceral, and that's simply not the case in GP. I suppose, though, that tracks, while also kinda basic and simple, are at least cute and fun, as that there's not much in the way of crazy gimmicks or over-the-top set pieces that may have been beside the budget, but there's a lot of satisfyingly sharp turns that utilize the drifts well, tons of jumps which are fun to hit, and the courses are also always super short, which inserts a weirdly high tension to keep everyone in the race and on top of each other's tails. Maybe that's why the game feels so slow. Races last about a minute and a half at most, so maybe they were worried people would be blasting past shit too quickly otherwise, even though I'd argue that totally could have been part of the fun as it already is. Leaning in on the short bursts of shit, emphasizing timed scores as it already does too, but more so, I don't know. Guess that likely would have necessitated more tracks, and let's just say that this game reeks of having been made as quickly and cheaply as humanly possible. What I'm pointing out now may very well have been stuff the devs were fully aware of. Maybe they wanted bigger tracks or more but had no time, or only realized fairly late into development that the races went by too quickly and thus had very little other options than to simply slow the whole game down. Who knows? In a way, while these tracks might not be on par with CTR, Sega All-Stars, or Mario Kart, in their flashiness, they're still like good-ass race courses from, say, a GBA kart racer. Flatter, simpler, but with a rawness to them. A all about the race type beats, and I do like that. No less fitting, seeing as the Switch is technically also a handheld. Weirdly enough, though, however, it has the same exact problem I had with Chocobo Racing, being that there's just too many items and too few considerations as to when to give them out and to who. At least Mario and Crash Kart were more likely to give certain shits to people at the back, but you get fucking teleported, thrown about, time-stopped, and nuked, electrocuted, and set on fire with total willy and nilly. Which completely counters out the GBA stageness, and yeah, at least a lot of it looks cute, I guess. Fun visual varieties like the square racetrack with the big classic Squaresoft logo Zeppelin, which is neat. A cool tropical pirate area, which I think is supposed to be B-Sade. These ruiny thingies at least look like it. And there's even a fully neoned up version of Zozo from Final Fantasy VI, and the goddamn gold saucer, and many other fan-servicey colorful locales, which I do like. But even with Arika's arcade expertise,
which will also be very relevant to my next video, stay tuned for that,
I would not scope this game out for the gameplay alone, though who knows, perhaps the story mode will save the GP just yet. So, the original SIBO Racing had a very cute picture book style of presentation that worked as a great way to make the story mode cheaply without having it look cheaply. So, naturally, GP half-hearts it, having default iMovie level page turn transitions, 3D models sliding across the fucking screen, and static images that are just somewhere on the track, thus looking very cheaply. The original also had a bit of elegance to it, jokes that skirted the line of inappropriate a tad, a more self-aware tone, and a hint of bluntness to the pacing and events, which is sort of present. What with how they poke fun at dumb JRPG naming conventions right away. Only there's voice acting now. Very cartoony, Nick Jr.-y, several nasally, squeaky American women screaming at each other while acting like disgruntled 5-year-old Z voice acting, and I'm not a fan. If I had to compare it up, I'd say that Chocobo Racing felt more like something that could have aired on Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon tonally, whereas GP has that 4Kids-esque neutered and tutored Disney Channel energy to it. A lot of jokes that aren't jokes, but just regular things said wacky or with love funny animation added to it. And the music is always on oopsie fucky wucky ooh woo level, never letting the fuck up. What's odd as well is that in terms of the actual content of the story, it is strikingly similar to the first. Moogle still like girl, you get a car from Sid, and it has a few neat gags on paper too, like Ifrit being a firefighter, or Vivi and Terra always being uncomfortably themselves, and I also fuck with the hot-headed dripped out behemoth. So I do get the impression that they were trying to do something like the original. It's just, it lacks a certain sense of adventuriness. There's no cool ghost house exploration and scenes with a lot going on. It's just talking in front of a backdrop, which started to drag pretty quickly for me. And B, the fucking voice acting nukes whatever sneapiness the writing may have had, with many line reads reading like they were literally just a first fucking take.
Where'd he go? Why, that little... To think that he managed to give me the slip.
I mean, that probably should have been a "why you little," but when you hit it straight from the paper on first go, that could have been what done came out. The whole aesthetic of it, sans the title screen, is just so grossly unwavering as well, and in my eyes, so cynically bubblegummy, genki, cutesy, and wacky that I see it as if a smile that won't stop smiling, because the moment it does, it can only reveal whatever dark, cynical shit it's hiding / compensating for. I think I might actually hate it. And when you pair that up with the slower game speeds and its simple straightforwardness, I kind of get the impression that GP was meant to be baby's first kart racer, which is fine on its own. It just turns into something pretty gross when one notices the elephant in the room behind the smile. And I ain't talking Dendy. I wish I was talking Dendy. We could have gone to the Dendy, Sonic, Sega, Game Boy store and shit. We could have had a great time. But no, the elephant is Square being assholes again. You see, there's a shop, and there's Gil, but there's Mithril, and there's rewards, and there's tickets, and there's shit you earn, but you buy, and you buy, but you earn, and GP points, and bonuses, and just...
What?
I have no idea what the fuck what is, nor do I care to find out, to be honest, as they grossly overcomplicated this stuff. Could have been as easy as one currency that's earnable and buyable to use in one store to buy things that you can also unlock, but instead it has everything at once. things. Either way, they want you to play online in GP mode to earn whatever the fuck so you can get whatever the fuck. Weirdly, in this mode, the racing tends to feel a lot faster, which is fun, but the feel is also more floaty, as I'm guessing it compensates with lag or desync in the background to keep the racing smooth, but then in that, a lot of the contextual things like vibration on speeds or the sensation of traction sometimes just isn't there. I felt like a fucking ghost. A fast ghost, but a ghost nonetheless. It's odd. Now, my one big stipulation here would be, can I unlock my boy, aka Leon, aka Small Squall, through just playing the game? If yes, whatever, I don't care. If no, then the game is evil and a scam and bad. And, well, now, you see, the thing is here, right now, is that Squall can be bought with the Gil currency in particular. For 3,000 in fact. Without his car, which cost an additional 9,000. And 3 races had netted me 40. I tried to look if you could buy Gil or use other currencies to get it, but I honestly legit couldn't find it. The store is so fucking convoluted with all of its different stores. There's the tickets one being more in-gamey, unlocky, and easy, and admittedly having a ton of content. And the Mithril one being the more online-y one, where you can also buy Mithril with Mithril? It is here also that I learned that the things one unlocks while playing the story mode, you don't so much unlock as that you simply earn the privilege of unlocking them with the currencies. The tickets, admittedly, you do get showered with while playing, but still, it's pretty gross, because it conditions the player to be in the store, just as how in several of the other menus there's a button to take you there. Suffice to say, fuck no. I'm not gonna play this for days just to free my boy, eat my whole ass square, fuck up out of my goddamn house with this shit, piss off. That's not even getting into the insane seasonal requirements for Cloud, unless you start spending in this retail full-price physical game. The fuck Chocobo GP. A JPEG of a level. You can buy a JPEG of a level. And then there's the other end of the elephant, the poopy side, which is that Square recently pawned off most of their Western-based shit. On one hand, I'm glad they listened to me when I said, fuck them for even having Western branches and stuffing their garbage down people's dicks during showcases when they know that that's not what people want from them or know them for, and fuck them for how they treat those Western branches like shit too. But on two hand, they also fumbled the bag, lost their greatest asset, and threatened to do crypto garbage again. Everyone else has already burnt their fingers on NFTs and the trend in general is basically dead now too, but Square's still talking about it as if it's a future prospect that totally doesn't have anything other lying in wait than backlash. Dumbass motherfuckers. Bitch-made CEO. Cringe. Same way they took what could have been a fun, cute, neat little arcade game, just as Chocobo Racing was, and turned it into a train-wrecking failure of trying to fleece children out of their parents' fucking money. It sucks. It's cynical and is so misguided as to why games with live service monetization can do well in the first place, as GP simply ain't that type of game. Arcades wanted you to pump quarters, not treat it like a day job. There's parallels, and retroactively calling out the arcade market for also having being sleazy as fuck is totally warranted too, but it still ain't the same thing. Like, it's hard to get hype for a Cloud unlock after 50 hours of playing, when all it'll let you do with him is use him in the same dozen or so tracks it has, and fuck all else of value. I don't like it, and aiming it at kids in particular makes it look even worse. I love Final Fantasy. I really do. 16 will probably be great, but at this point, I do hope the company seriously does their own shit in with their crypto attempts, because this course they're on from a corporate business point of view is incompetent at best and downright malicious at worst, so maybe burning some fingers might make him change course. I don't know. Ultimately, you can only pretend to give so many fucks about the best interests of any corporation. It's just, shit gets sad when that corporation also continuously makes some of your all-time favorite games, you know? Though at least I can confidently say that Chocobo GP is not one of them. Didn't even include the Chocobo butt plug as a buyable item. What a bitch-ass game.